Finding where Becky, Charlena, Felicity and Senon's intention lay was very different depending on who I was working with. So sometimes a movement would give you a direction of intention. See, do you know I was saying in the last video about how it's really easy to slip back into looking for representation because I'm looking for an expression of the mind through the body. So something like a movement is exactly that. You know, if I'm reaching towards the cup, you know that my intention is in the cup. And for one of the girls, that she had movement that enabled her to express intention. And so I was able to figure out where her intention lay, even when I wasn't feeling for intention, because you could see it. But with other people, it was much more tricky. I think Felicity was my biggest teacher for this, because she moved her hands beautifully. She danced with her fingers, and I would join those dances and I would search in them for where her intention lay, and it took me ages. It's so obvious now, but it took me ages to figure out that her movements weren't reaching towards something. They weren't directional within the world around her. Her intention was towards the movement. She was being towards the sensation of movement. And for Charlena and Becky, I was quite often working against intentional pulls. So Merleau-Ponty talks about us placing our intention in things, but also things around us acting as intentional pulls. So at the moment, I can hear my 5-year-old having a shower with his daddy, and the little squeaks are intentional pulls. And both Charlena and Becky were really alert to the environment around them, to greater or lesser degrees. Their intention with Becky, you almost felt like her intention was pulled out of her by the space around her. And to establish being with, so this space of shared meaning in which collaborative research was possible, I needed to pay attention to the world around, to where this person's intention was flowing, and we would be with each other if our intention flowed in the same direction. That was my theory. I took into the field loads of novel objects, and these were so much fun. I had a giant vibrating rope, ping pong ball sleeves, I had a great big blue egg with chimes inside, and I thought that these would help us to find a research space. I thought we would discover our identity against these objects, and they were useful, but in a very different way to how I had expected when I set out on this work. For starters, they really helped me to anchor my embodiment in the space. I'm quite in my head sort of person. I'm thinking about things, I'm wondering, and in order to feel for someone's intention, I need to be there in the moment. And something like, as daft as it sounds, something like a giant blue egg, you really are like, wow, like, this thing is here. And so it pulled me into presentness. And I watched that happen to other people around me as well. The giant blue egg especially almost drew people to it. So you put this weird object in a space and everybody's intention goes, ooh. And so those novel objects acted as intentional poles. But in the process of feeling for meaning, rather than looking for symbolic representation of meaning, like you could, if you put the giant blue egg in a room and everybody walks over to it, you go, great, we're doing this together. But the feeling of it wasn't all that. There would be like little moments where you felt, yeah, I'm with you, you're with me. And then they would go. And I had planned to figure out how to find this space of shared meaning. And then once I'd found this space of shared meaning, to do research in that space. And at the start of the work, a little moment of shared meaning would pop up and you'd think, great, I'm on my way. And then it would go. And I remember describing it as being like soap bubbles. Sometimes they'd appear and then pop. Sometimes they'd linger on the wind for a bit and then pop. But this sensation of being with somebody was very fleeting initially until I worked out. So here's what was happening. When you've got the object drawing everyone's intention, this is my novel object for the purpose of the video. It's a pint of hot coffee. It's very weak coffee, so don't worry. My intention flows towards it. Somebody else's intention flows towards it. And as we get there, we bump into each other and there's this little moment of witness. But then we continue on. And the lingering bits, the little moments where it lasted longer, it's like my intention flows towards it and somebody else comes from a similar direction. There's a little bit of time where we're flowing, like the being with it is extended and then it goes on. And so what I learned from that is that intention, if you think of it as a vector, so something that has a direction of travel and a speed of travel, knowing the object of someone's intention isn't actually that relevant to being with. What's relevant is feeling for the direction of flow and then joining that direction of flow. And as you flow along together, that's being with. And that's a space of shared meaning, a space of connection and belonging, and really a marvellous place to occupy. And I found I began to think of the people that I worked with, their intention having a shape. And so with Becky and her intention being pulled by the world around her, there was this kind of spiky shape. Some people's intention was very located in a small area, so Senan was very interested and was, around here. Charlena's intention seemed to be scrambled by the world around her quite often, as if the background noises and stimulus were confused, and then suddenly it would just fix on you. And the staff who worked with her said it's like she can see into your soul, because those moments of focused, it was like tuning in a radio dial and then suddenly it would come clear. She would just be like and be with you. It was fabulous. And Felicity's intention was this beautiful dance that happened in the space around her. There were lots of related insights that go with this. The significance of me being able to hold my own embodiment and the complications that go with that as an autistic person was huge. My mental state, me disassociating, and when actions in the field acted to hamper somebody's intentional flow, then it wasn't possible to establish being with. But the experience of being with, the feeling of being with, is, makes all the work of doing a PhD worth it.